and good night wherever you are in podcast land. Brendan Cunningham, the real estate doctor, right here with Matt Paul. We're going to talk about all the things that you've been wondering about this week.
Yeah.
What's going on?
There's a lot going on. It sounds like
A lot going on, and not just the Sabres.
not just we don't want to talk about that. It's a little
No,
sore.
people are a little upset over
Little,
the
little
Sabres.
sore
You know what?
subject.
I think kudos to them. They weren't supposed to even be in the playoffs
No.
right along.
I mean, even
I'm
up
not
to
even a hockey
December, we
fan.
weren't even a contender.
I
So,
can remember up
Yep.
until like November. These
Yeah.
guys are bums. They're going nowhere. And then, so
We had a good run and it was entertaining.
you had a great run and it was entertaining. And you know, they'll be back next year.
Yep. And now we're a little bit closer to football season from watching sports.
I think today they're actually practicing.
Yeah, the OTAs.
Yeah,
Yep.
beautiful. I really look forward to that.
Yes.
And I was actually waiting for the bus with my grandson yesterday. And he says, "Come on, can we throw the ball?" And now he's 6. And he throws a perfect spiral. I can't throw a perfect spiral.
Wow.
I said,
Nice.
I said to his mother, I said, "You know you can throw a perfect spiral?" He says, "Yeah, I know." He says, "I don't want him to play football." I said, "I can understand that, but he's got a perfect spiral at 6." I
Yeah.
said, "These guys in college can't do that."
Yeah, seriously.
But anyway, you know what? A couple of things that I think are important to know about is we're going to talk about something called concessions.
Yes. I think we touched on it before.
We
but,
have, sure. I mean, there's only so many subjects, and you know they all sort of flip in and move around.
Yep.
But this one's moving around a little bit. Concessions typically are what they call sellers' concessions.
Mhm.
I want to buy your house, but I need some help
Yep.
on something.
Yep. Some of the closing costs,
Some of,
whatever.
can you help me with that close? Can you give me like a couple of thousand for my closing, or maybe a percentage?
Exactly.
Decorator allowance.
Yep. Yep. But
Uh,
essentially, the buyer's paying for it. You're paying that in the loan.
Oh yeah.
You're asking the seller to allow.
Well, that's one way to do it. Unless you just say, "Can you just give me?"
Yeah.
Sometimes I say, "Yeah, I could, but my last name isn't Kringle."
Yeah.
You know?
And in this market, it's pretty
And
tough.
this one, I actually had somebody say that once. He says, "But he says my first and last name isn't Santa Claus."
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. But as it turns out, concessions on real estate contracts are way up
Yeah. You said nationally.
year over year. Keyword, he said. You're
Yes.
sneaking in on me nationally.
Stole it.
30% of the transactions last year had concessions built into them where they said, "Mr. Seller, can you help me out?" It's up to like 41% now. So that's like a 20, a little over 25% increase year over year on sellers' concessions. What was the word?
Yeah.
Nationally. Okay.
Yeah.
Not here.
Yeah. We haven't seen that.
No, I mean, yeah, I can't remember seeing one with a concession on it, but
Yep.
I'm sure they're out there.
Yep.
But I think I couldn't scratch beneath the surface to say, okay, where are the concessions going?
Yeah.
I suspect some of the concessions that have added to the increase have to do with the changes that were made on August 17th, 2024
Yep.
with commissions, where maybe they're going to let you build in the commission that the buyer might have had to pay as a seller's concession. I think that might be
That is what I've heard as
Yeah.
well. Yep.
That makes sense.
It does, especially if it's an unforeseen. You saved enough money, you know what you needed for the down payment, and then all of a sudden, look, they're not going to pay the buyer's agent. You have to, step up, pay a little bit. That's, an unknown at that.
It is an unknown, and welcome to real estate because
Yeah.
it's constantly changing and tweaking and this and that.
Yep.
But I said, one of the things that when I read a lot of articles and stuff is because I want to know what's going on, not only nationally, but here
Mhm.
more specifically. And that when I saw that jump, I said, "Wow, that's a big number,"
Mhm.
and not something we're used to.
Yeah.
And in fact, I can remember when they first put the line on our local contract for concessions because it didn't used to exist.
Yep.
They brought it in early 2000s.
Right under the sale price.
Right under, and they put it in the wrong line because
Yeah.
it's confusing because you have
Yeah.
one line says deposit, and the other one says concessions. Concessions is above the deposit.
It is, yeah, which isn't.
Should have been below
I
that
agree.
because a lot of times you see the people get it wrong. They say, "Oh, this guy's got $25,000 in concessions."
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the deposit.
Yeah.
Oh, you got on the wrong line. Okay, and it's an easy mistake to make.
Yep.
But costly one.
Yes.
We don't
absolutely.
wanna
It
make
could be a deal killer.
But it was interesting when they put it in. Concessions weren't really happening here either. The market was brisk. Now, 5 years later, 2008,
Oh, yeah.
market got real hinky.
Mhm.
Concessions. Everyone was looking for concessions, but that's not here. Now, couple that with another article I read, talk about cities that are going to become unaffordable within the next 5 years. And I mentioned this
Yep.
a couple of weeks ago too. One of them was in New Jersey, Montclair, New Jersey. Yeah. was going to become unaffordable. It's probably unaffordable now for the average
For
person
most,
here.
yeah. Yep.
But Buffalo's on that list. And Buffalo's
In the
on that
top
list.
5.
And it's number 5
Mhm.
on that list. In 5 years, it will become unaffordable. And I said, no.
Yeah.
And I said, everything is relative.
Mhm.
Everything is relative. And I can remember when I first moved up here 40 years ago, and I was used to New York City prices. I can remember my wife at the time explaining to me, you have to understand, dear. She says, corn is $1 a dozen here. Well, it was 3 for $1 in New York,
Yeah.
if you could find it,
Yes, yes.
and and so everything
Everything's shipped in.
everything is shifted, yeah,
Yep.
and so, but yeah, well, unaffordable in 5 years, and I've been telling people, listen, this train is pulling away from the station. Really, really, if
It
you're
is.
thinking of doing it, you got to get in. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. And now they're saying, if in 5 years the average Joe is not going to be able to get in.
If we keep seeing this appreciation year over year that
Yeah,
we
year
have,
appreciation,
I
year over
think
year,
it's
because
definitely a
I
possibility.
know our listeners are going to say, well, I can't listen to this anymore. But
Hopefully not.
yeah, the prices are going to continue to go up here because this is still the best deal around.
And we're still having a lack of inventory, so supply and demand is
Supply and
yeah,
demand is
so it's
that
good.
equation is broken.
Yep.
So it could happen, and it will certainly become unaffordable for the average guy.
Yes. Yep.
For the average guy.
Yep.
And the other thing that is really a critical piece of information for our market, and I was talking to an agent this morning about this. This has always, always, always been the Buffalo market, a very strong first-time buyers market
Yes.
because it was cheap
That's
to get in.
what I was gonna say. That unfortunately, they'll probably be
Those are the guys that are getting
hurt the
squeezed the
most.
hardest, the absolute hardest.
And the age, you see the age keeps going up too.
Age keeps
I mean,
going
it's
up.
like 40 now.
Now it's up to
Yeah, or
it's up to
38 or something.
yeah. It's right. It's like Joel's age.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah. Used to be
very
in the 20s,
20s, and
26.
I sold a house to a 21-year-old a year ago, and I said, "You're the youngest person I've ever sold a house to."
19 was the youngest I've ever
Yeah,
sold, and he was still really good, hardworking guy.
great. And I said, I'm super proud of you. You're
Yeah,
smarter than I was when I
yeah.
was
Oh,
21.
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's a
I
great
didn't get in
jump
until I
start.
was 28.
Yep.
And I was shamed into buying. I said, I can't buy. I don't have any money. She said, sit down. Let me show you how this
Yeah,
works.
yeah. But now look, you have a great career in real estate because of
You
that.
know what?
You know,
It's been a wonderful run for me. I've made a lot of friends. I've learned so much more than just real estate.
Mhm.
And you really start to appreciate this thing about the American dream that they talk about. It really is, the founding fathers had it right.
Yeah.
And the founding fathers, when they crafted that Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, whatever it was, with the words were life, liberty. What was the last word?
Trust.
Well,
Yeah.
they came out life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but those
Yeah.
weren't the original words.
No.
No, the original words were life, liberty, and property. Property. And they said, well, maybe that sounds less inclusive.
Yeah.
Because what if you don't own property? You're a bum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said, well, property, it's the only way you can really be happy if you own something.
Yeah.
So they said, well, we'll call it the pursuit of happiness. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of owners out there that would like to be sellers and not be owners anymore, because sometimes being an owner is a pain in the
Yeah.
rear end.
Well, we've all seen the movie Money Pit, right?
The money pit. Yes. I had a few money pits over the years.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So it's a blessing and a curse all the time. But if you want to have a better life in the United States, certainly,
Yeah.
you really have to own the place that you live in. And when I hear people say that they're investors, and I say, well, tell me about your investments, and they start talking about this stock and this stock and this thing. And I said, and where do you live? And they said, I live in an apartment over. I said, you don't own the place that you live? I said, yeah. You would be what I call a stupid investor.
Yeah.
Oh, was that wrong to say that?
You say what you want.
I mean, think about the biggest investment you have is probably the place that you're living in.
Yeah.
And
No.
well, but the rent is cheap here. I'm only paying $1,500 a month. Well, it's 18 grand a year. After 3 years, you're talking 50 grand. What are you
That's
doing?
out the window.
Out this window over here.
Yep.
It's like, no, especially in Western Europe. Why would you do that?
Well, but with the appreciation on top of paying down your loan, I mean, you're making
And then you
money.
get the interest, which is tax deductible. And
Yep.
oh, and here's the best part. You don't get the knock at the door saying, yeah, you can't have a dog anymore.
Yeah. Yes.
I
Or
can
you,
ha-
or you have to move out. I'm selling or whatever.
You know what?
Yep.
There was a guy in my neighborhood. He was, I call him local color. He cuts my grass, and he's a little goofy.
Yeah.
But they sold the house and he had to get out. And I was convinced he was going to be made homeless
Yeah.
because the rents were way beyond anything he could afford. And he had a good deal,
Yep.
you know.
We stayed there for a while,
He
probably
stayed
locked
there for he was
in.
there
Yep.
probably 10 years.
Yep.
And he finally did find a place sort of in the neighborhood. And I said a prayer of thanksgiving. I said, because I thought he was going to be on a bench somewhere
Yeah.
because those places don't exist anymore,
Nope.
even here.
Yep. And as we know, you have to uphold the lease. So if you do buy a house and somebody's locked into a lease, you have to honor that. However, most of the time when somebody's been in there that long, it turns to a month, right? And then you just have to give them 90 days if
And
you've
that,
been there
if
that
you've
day.
been there more than 3 years, it's 90 days.
Yep.
So a really interesting thing, Italy, if you want to rent, everyone says, well, you know, you really should rent before you buy.
Yeah.
That's usually good advice
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
You know, get to know the area.
Yeah.
He says, and you really want to do what they call a 4x4. What does that mean? You get a lease for 4 years, automatically renews for another 4 years. So you're locked in for 8 years on a rental. That's now, you don't have to do that, but that's, let's call the standard. That's what most people want to do.
Okay.
And they said, here's why they don't flip out. In New York City, what they call rent stabilization. You do 1, 2, 3-year leases, and there's restrictions on how much you can raise the rent with each one.
Accelerators are meant. Yeah.
With the accelerators. Almost nobody takes the 3-year lease because, well, I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years.
Yeah. Yep.
90% of the people take the 1-year lease, and that's why they have a rent. Because if everyone's renewing in a year and they're taking the highest cut on the increase, you can see after 30 or 40 years, nothing's affordable anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But the hook there is, well, you don't have to stay the 4 years because you can cancel it anytime with 30 days notice.
Really? No penalty.
No penalty.
You don't forfeit your
Nope.
deposit.
Nope.
Oh, wow.
Nope. So that gives them a comfort factor.
Yeah.
Most people say, 8 years? I'm not doing that. I may not even be alive in 8 years.
Yeah, you don't know what you're going to do.
So you have to know the local environment. What works, what doesn't. So when we talk about concessions, they're becoming a thing around the country.
Yep.
Not so much
But
here.
it's situational, as you mentioned.
It's situational. It's geographical. And it always comes back to that thing that I think I learned this maybe the second or third week in real estate. All real estate is local.
Yes, absolutely.
All real estate is local, and you got to deal with a local guy.
Pretty impossible to know what they're doing down in Florida, like, on the ground.
Yeah, and I'm looking on. I may wind up becoming a snowbird. I'm looking in Florida, but it's interesting to see what's going on down there. I'm looking in Lauderdale. I like Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Man, are they having car burglaries left and right?
Really?
Break-ins at night.
Oh.
Yeah, and I say, oh, okay, because I'm here in Lauderdale's getting a little hinky, and
everything's
getting a little hinky down there. But
you got to do your homework.
You got to do your homework,
Yep.
yeah. And the other big bugaboo down there is the HOAs.
Oh yeah.
It's killing them.
Yeah, with the flood insurance, which I heard is getting better. From my friends that own down there, they say that there's a lot more companies now offering homeowners insurance, so it's becoming a little bit more competitive.
And flood is what a scam. Flood insurance is.
Yeah, the homeowners and flood. That's exactly
usually around here. I mean, I tend to be a little direct with people, maybe too much so. But generally speaking, if somebody's buying a house that requires, flood insurance, I say, yeah, why don't we look at another house?
Yeah, it can be really pricey.
But God forbid you have a flood, they're not going to cover it anyway.
Exactly.
Well, it was an act of God. That's why we have flood insurance.
Exactly, and the resale value too.
Well, yeah,
a lot of people aren't going to touch that.
Yeah,
I mean, last property I sold, it was another $3,400 a year for the flood insurance.
Give me a bag of shells.
Yeah, on top of the.
What would you do with an extra $3,400? You could go to McDonald's.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Get the Big Mac.
Yeah. Every day,
and be dead in a year. But
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of different things going on, but like you said, it's market specific. So here in Western New York, not seeing concessions as much. I've heard of a couple of people that have put them into offers, but very, very limited amount of people.
Yeah.
Agents.
And the other thing, I was talking to another agent. They were doing their buyer was buying a house, and they had a pre-approval from an online lender. I'm not going to throw all of the online lenders under the bus.
Some get the deals done.
Some of them do. But generally speaking, I always say those things are usually not worth the electronic ink they're written on.
Yeah,
because they probably haven't run the credit.
Let's say, people get those in the mail and try to use them.
They haven't run. Well, yeah, they have, but they probably haven't run the credit. And the worst part is they haven't taken the real estate taxes into accountability.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a $400,000 house in Orchard Park and Clarence, and the city I put the same amount of money down. Are the payments different?
Absolutely.
Dramatically different.
Big time.
Big time.
Yep.
And if I have a pre-approval for this amount that doesn't cover the taxes on this property over here, what good is it?
No. Yeah.
So so we as agents, when we work for the seller, we take a look at that
You verify
pre-approval.
that your taxes.
We look at it and say, oh, okay, they ran the credit. Okay, this is good then. If they haven't run the credit and it's not area specific,
it doesn't hold a lot of weight.
who are we kidding here?
Yeah.
You're not going to close on this thing.
Yeah.
So,
especially if you get, you're dealing with a good listing agent that's going to look through everything and follow up, sometimes even call.
And this is where hockey comes in.
Yeah.
I said, if you're going to be a listing agent, you are the goalie.
Yep.
You can't let even the simple ones get past you.
Yes.
Which is what they're accusing the poor guy.
I know.
What was his name? Luca Lou?
Yeah.
No one can say his name. No one can say his name.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I felt really bad for the poor kid. I mean,
I think they did.
I don't think he's in Scott Norwood world at this point, but he's feeling bad because it was a
Yeah.
And I would hate to be the goalie just for that reason, because it's always the one that you should have gotten. That
Well, they said that it was a knuckle puck, which I guess drops. So it's like a knuckleball in baseball.
Oh, is it?
That's what I was listening to the radio, and they were saying that he shot a knuckle puck that just all of a sudden dropped, and he was right there ready to get it, and then it just went, dropped right below him and couldn't stop it. So, but again, I don't play hockey. So.
No, I don't.
But it was highly entertaining.
It was, what?
Really
yeah, even I got involved, and I was watching it with my daughter, and the grandson stayed up late to watch it,
nice.
and she had to get up every Tuesday. I can't watch it. Oh my God, I have to take a Xanax. Oh my God, I'm nervous. Right? I said, you don't have the skates on here. They're not throwing pucks at you.
At the end of the day, but it was really good for local businesses. So
very good.
A friend of mine has a pizzeria and said it was busier than it's been in years since we've been out of the playoffs this time of year. He's like, pretty much like the Super Bowl. So
and
that's good.
I was watching the traffic pattern by the road that goes by outside. By Canal Side.
That was watch party.
The watch party?
Yeah.
There were like 1 million cars. And and everyone was good about it. They weren't dropping F-bombs. Move your car. I'll kill you now.
It was I saw a lot of younger people. So, it was good to see people that maybe didn't have access to tickets or the ability to buy them, and they still wanted to be a part of the energy and the crowd. And I thought it was great.
It was a great run.
Yeah.
And they're good kids. The hockey players tend to be really good kids.
Yeah.
They're not like the football players, but sometimes they're a little goofy. And in trouble.
Yep.
They tend to behave themselves. So thank you, Sabres, for a good run.
Yep.
Thank you, for listeners, for tuning in, or viewers and watching us. And if you have any questions, you're going to do your wonderful spiel here.
Please follow, subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.
I love when he does that. Okay, and remember, when you tune in, we're going to give you the real story, not tell you what you want to hear, tell you what you need to know, because together we are those real estate guys.